to give you all a sense of, from a stepped back geographic level perspective, how can you get a sense of both country risk as well as Article 6 readiness on a country by country basis. So these Sylvera country risk profiles, there are about 40 of them. They're growing every quarter as we add more and more country risk profiles to our list. But the key use case here is really to help buyers and sellers understand country-specific risks in the context of the carbon markets. We have a set of key risk indicators up here: delivery risk, utility risk. In the case of Rwanda, I'll click into the reputational risk section here, human rights risk, right, based on the sort of human rights track record of the country. So a bit of a flag that were you to invest in a project in Rwanda, let's say, doing project level diligence around social safeguarding and community safeguarding to mitigate against that risk. And then cost risk as well. This was one of the questions that came in before the webinar. So really zooming in on what are key costs, fees associated with project development in specific countries. And you can get that insight insofar as it is defined. You can get that insight directly in this section. Now, perhaps most relevant for the news article that we were looking at that we linked to this profile from is the Article 6 readiness section. So Rwanda as a host country is fairly advanced, one of the top 3 countries in the African continent in terms of host country readiness under Article 6. Its institutions are pretty robust. You can see those sort of laid out and listed here. And it has existing Article 6 agreements, as well as LOAs. You can see those listed down here, LOAs that it has authorized already. So relatively robust in terms of Article 6 readiness more broadly. One thing to call out, there is a defined Article 6.4 positive list, but there is not yet an Article 6.2 positive or negative list, right? So that's one of the key places where that's not yet been defined or confirmed just yet. I think, as you can see from this section, this kind of policy monitoring, this kind of country level risk monitoring requires real-time updates, having an ear to the ground, having a robust policy team to monitor this over time. I think the Indonesian country profile that we have on the platform is a really good example of that kind of real-time risk monitoring. The situation in Indonesia from 2022 onwards has obviously been changing, right, and rapidly evolving. So one of the things that we did want to highlight is the way in which our policy team keeps on top of these changes on the ground and gives you all full insight into how that impacts policy risk, both more broadly as well as for each of the key pillars within the country risk profiles. So delivery risk, utility risk, you can see the key update that happened, when it happened, as well as how that impacts each of those key drivers of risk at the country level. One last piece that I will touch on within these country profiles is the highlighting of our recently rated projects. So you can see once you sort of have this grasp at the country level of what the key drivers of policy risk might be, you can then move into specific projects that have been rated within that country. In the case of Indonesia, I did want to point out how that policy risk, right, sits at that market level, sits at the country level in our country risk profiles, and then trickles down to our project-specific ratings as well. So these are quantitative, deterministic ratings, where one of the pieces that we will call out as applicable is policy risk. In the case of Katingan, you can see there's actually front and center an on-watch notice that highlights the changing situation in Indonesia, the domestic registry that is being set up, and the ongoing approval and validation that this particular project, Katingan, is looking for that registry. So highlighting that at the project-specific level as well.